Imagine this. A wealthy man is about to go on a long trip, but before he leaves, he calls 3 of his servants together. He hands them different amounts of money, which back then was called talents. It's important to note that this isn't just pocket change. A talent was a huge sum, something like years' worth of wages. The master gives one servant 5 talents, another 2, and the last just 1. Then he heads off on his journey, leaving these guys with one clear responsibility: make the most of what I've given you. Now pause and think about that for a second. He didn't give them instructions on how to grow the money. He didn't micromanage or set any specific goals. The message was simple: you've got this, so take action. The first servant, given 5 talents, immediately gets to work. He invests, takes risks, and doubles what he has. Same with the second servant. He's only got 2 talents, but he's not bothered by the smaller amount. He rolls up his sleeves, hustles, and doubles his share. But the third servant? He's not feeling it. Instead of taking a chance, he digs a hole in the ground and buries the talent. He does nothing. Why? Fear, maybe. Laziness? Probably a little of both. Fast forward to when the master returns. The first servant proudly presents 10 talents, having doubled his initial 5. The second does the same, showing 4 talents. The master is thrilled. He praises them, not just for the results, but for their willingness to step up and take action. "Well done, good and faithful servant," he says. They're rewarded with more responsibility, more opportunity. Why? Because they proved themselves capable, they saw the potential and ran with it. But the third servant, the one who buried his talent, doesn't get the same reaction. He's got excuses. "I knew you were a tough master," he says. "I was scared I'd lose the money, so I hid it. Here's your talent back." The master isn't impressed. In fact, he's angry. Why? Because this servant did the bare minimum. He played it safe out of fear. No risk, no growth. And so, what does the master do? He takes the 1 talent away and gives it to the servant who has 10. That's harsh, right? But it makes sense. If you're not willing to make the most of what you have, you lose out. Here's where the lesson hits home. This isn't just a story about money. It's about potential. It's about using what you've got. We've all been given something, whether it's talent, resources, or opportunities. And how we use those things defines who we are and where we end up. The first 2 servants didn't just sit around waiting for instructions. They saw an opportunity to make a difference. They weren't afraid to take risks or fail. And that's the core of the message. If you want to grow, if you want to lead, you can't play it safe. You have to act. This story also highlights another important point. Comparison doesn't matter. One servant had 5 talents, the other had 2. Did it matter? No. They were both praised because they did the best with what they had. Whether you have a lot or a little, the goal is the same: grow it. Too often, we get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, thinking we need to be on the same level as someone else to succeed. But that's not the point. Success is about maximizing your resources, not worrying about someone else's. Let's talk about the third servant. He's the cautionary tale here. He let fear hold him back. He was afraid of failure, of disappointing the master, so he did nothing. But by doing nothing, he ensured failure. That's a key takeaway. Inaction is the real enemy. You're not protecting yourself by avoiding risk, you're stunting your own potential. Leadership and growth require stepping out of your comfort zone and putting your skills to work, even if there's a chance things might not go perfectly. So, what does this story tell us about leadership? It's simple. Leadership is about responsibility and action. It's about seeing the potential in what you've been given and doing something with it. Whether you've got 5 talents or 1, it doesn't matter. What matters is how you use them. Are you taking risks? Are you working to grow what you have? Or are you playing it safe, waiting for a perfect opportunity that might never come? The master didn't reward the servants based on how much they started with. He rewarded them based on what they did. That's the takeaway. It's not about where you begin. It's about how you finish. It's about leadership through action, responsibility, and the courage to take risks. In the end, the parable of the talents isn't just a story about a master and his servants. It's a reminder for all of us to make the most of what we've got, to lead with courage, and to grow beyond our limitations. We all have talents, whether literal or metaphorical, And the question isn't what those talents are, but what we're going to do with them. So take a moment to think about what you have in your hands right now. Are you sitting on your talents, or are you multiplying them? That's the challenge of leadership. That's the challenge of life.